Welcome to the VŌC Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the VŌC Podcast, in which I'll be interviewing professional actress and voice actress Heather Alicia Simms, whom you guys, gamers, might know best for voicing Denise Robinson from back in 2004 for Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Thank you so much for coming on, Heather. How are you doing today?
I am well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we could conduct this interview, and I'm so happy to have you on. And I can't wait to ask the first question, which is, when did you get started in acting? How? And when did it all start?
Well, I think it started when I was 4, and I did a
Mm.
poem that my mom wanted me to do, and my sister stood up and clapped for me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And so I was excited about that. But it was really after college, and I was a little I guess I just didn't know what I wanted to do with the degree that I had. And my dad told me that I should get a master's in something. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I'll get a master's in theater. And he was like, I don't care. Just get a master's in something. So I did. And, and going to grad school for theater. And after that, I got an agent and um a theater agent and theater, film, and television agent, and then I got a voiceover agent, commercial agent,
Mm-hmm. But
and
you've also been doing on-camera acting, is that correct?
I've done a lot of on-camera acting, a lot of theater. My foundation is really theater, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's the thing that I happily go back to, and
Okay.
um, yeah.
Okay, so you've worked across all sorts of mediums, including, theater, film and television and voiceover, of course. Do you have like a preference of, which one do you like doing more than others?
You know what? I don't have a preference. I think that they all feed each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's funny because when you're a voiceover actor, they can't see you do this, right?
Yes.
Like they can't see you physically emote. So everything has to come through in your voice. And so that's a different kind of challenge. So I can't say that I prefer that over something else. I can
Mm-hmm.
say though that there are times when I'm able to do it without leaving my home. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great. And there are times when I can do, like right now, I just finished a theater job. And due to the fact that the writers are on strike and a lot of people aren't working in television and film, that feels like a luxury to me to be able to say that I can still work, you
Uh-huh.
know, even though television and film are kind of at a standstill
Mm-hmm.
right
I
now.
see.
Yeah.
Well, acting often requires stepping into the shoes of all sorts of different characters. And since you do both television, film, and voiceover, so do you find it difficult to approach characters on or in films as opposed to voiceover characters?
Um, I don't no, no. I feel like the collaboration is different though.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing voiceover, a lot of times you're just listening to the people in another room or another state or another country, giving you
Mm-hmm.
direction. Um, Sometimes they're there with you, but a lot of times they are somewhere else. And so you're hearing the direction from them and you can kind of suss out what they want.
Mm-hmm.
With film and television, you're right there, but it's also the three of them are very quick mediums, right? So they are the kinds of things where you get on set and you get some direction and you do it, as opposed to theater, you know, a lot of theater actors bemoan the fact that, now we have like 3 weeks of rehearsal and then we do a show. Whereas
Mhm.
before we used to have 4, 5, 6 weeks of rehearsals. And so, but that's a different kind of muscle that you're working. So yeah, I think that doing voiceover, sometimes it can feel like you can be really independent and
Mhm.
go your way and
I see.
and relax in your own creativity.
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you said that right. Are there, like, any particular genres or types of characters you enjoy portraying the most?
I I like to, you know, I can't say a particular genre. I like to surprise people. I
Mhm.
like to surprise myself.
Mm.
I like to think about characters in the what if, as
Uh-huh.
opposed to, you can get a script and read it and you know exactly who the person is, right? And that's great. And you may do a great job. But I think that my job is to go, but what if? What if
Mm.
they did this? And what if they felt like this? And what if they said this? And what if they looked like that? You
Uh-huh.
know? And so that gives me the opportunity to break open
Uh-huh.
something with the
Yes.
character that may be a bit unexpected. And sometimes I can't find it, right?
Mhm.
And so then maybe I'm like, oh, I'm working too hard trying to find this other thing. And sometimes it comes later. Like, and that's what I love about doing theater. I, like I said, I just closed this show and I was doing this scene and it was like the last scene of the act. And there were times when it would get the response that I felt like it needed, and there were other times when it wouldn't. And I was like,
Mhm.
why isn't it getting the consistent response? And I realized that it was something that the audience needed me to do,
Mhm.
to let them know something about the end of this act. And that's thrilling to me because I feel like, yeah, you know what? I'm still working. I'm not stuck in, the show is opened and so this is my performance every night. I'm not I'm not straying. I'm not adding extra lines. I'm not doing, you know, any like extra acrobatics in the middle of
Mhm.
it. But I'm still working. I'm still like tweaking things that I feel I need and the audience may need and my, scene partner may need in order for the performances to really fly.
Yes, and also in voiceover, you many times don't work together with your voiceover partners, if I can say so, the fellow actors, right? So that's also.
Unless you're doing, let's say, a commercial, like a
Really?
TV or radio commercial, then there are times when you'll be in the booth with somebody else. But I will tell you that, especially, since the pandemic, it's been years. I feel like it's been years since I've been, well, it's been years since I've been in a booth. I'll record from home. But
Mhm.
yeah, back in the olden days, it used to be that, if you were in a commercial or with someone else, there were times when you would be in the booth together.
Mhm. And now I see that mostly in animation is that we're mostly together in the booth.
In the times that I've done any animated things, it's been by myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well.
So when I did the Rockstar games, it was pretty much by myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see, I see. And since you as an actress, have you faced like any challenges along the way, some obstacles that you've encountered, and how did you overcome those?
So Yeah, I think that we're all going to face obstacles, and some of the obstacles are our own, what we think about ourselves or where we are in our lives. And
Mm-hmm.
some of them are going to be external obstacles. So, I mean, generally, I just know I've always known since I've been in the business, and that's not true, you know, since I've been in the business, I've known that I'm supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known that I was going to make a space for myself. And that wasn't always true before I got into the business because I didn't see myself. I didn't always see myself in shows that I could have seen myself in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an obstacle for me. And sometimes, an obstacle is just, practical things like money. I can't
Mm-hmm.
afford to do that show because I won't be able to live my life a
Yes,
certain kind of
obviously.
way, right? And so and so you have to make those kinds of determinations. What am I going to what am I going to take? And also, what am I willing to do? I remember a time where, I remember a time doing being hired to do a voiceover,
Mm-hmm.
and it was myself and another client from my agency. We were hired to do this voiceover, and it was I don't remember the product, but it was rife with so many stereotypes, and it was just untenable. And we called our agents and we were like, we can't do this. We can't do this. And the person who was hiring us could not understand. But we were both like, this is crazy. And we didn't know if our agents were going to be like, what do you mean you can't do it? It's a job. But they weren't,
Yeah. Yeah.
they understood completely, and we left, and we went on our way, and we were just like, and so it's that thing. It's standing up for yourself. It's standing up for what you believe in, standing up for, you know, yourself at times when you're like, hmm, but this is, you are in the middle of what you thought would be your dream. And for some other people, it would be a dream and they would do it.
Mm.
And so you have to say, hey, then that's for someone else, but it's not for me.
Yes. I wonder if that product ever saw the light. I
I
don't
I
know.
have no idea. And and it's so funny because once I turned away from it, people have asked me, what was the product? I cannot remember. And
Mm.
I'm not shielding them from anything because I would be like, oh gosh. But I really can't remember. It's
Mm.
not, yeah.
Well, that's understandable, of course. You've worked on a lot of projects, and this is just one of the many,
Yeah.
as you might know. So you do voiceover, you know. When did you get started in voiceover? And since you were doing acting, I assume before you actually started voiceover, what was your reaction to voiceover? Did you know of it before you started with your career as an actress?
You know what? I think I knew something of it, but I knew very little. And I got into it by happenstance. So,
Really?
yeah, my aunt was an attorney, and she worked at an office, and her secretary was leaving, and she was going to a voiceover agency. And she was like, Heather, I'm going to this agency. You're an actor. You should come and check it out. And I was like, okay. And I went. And when I got there, I saw this guy who I went to college with, and he was an agent there. And I was like, he was like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "She told me to come up here." I was like, "What are you doing here?" He was like, "I'm an agent." And he became my agent.
What a coincidence,
I
isn't it?
know. And so he started representing me. And it was at an agency that is no longer in existence,
Oh.
SEM&M.
Mm-hmm.
But I started booking voiceovers with them, and it was wonderful. But the agents that were there, they went to another agency and took me with them, and I've been with them ever since.
Oh, that's amazing then.
Yeah,
You ke-
yeah.
you kept getting work then. That's
I
cool.
kept getting work, but you know what? There were times when I wasn't getting work. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting, there were times when I would book voiceover work and I just could not book television or film or theater work to save my life. And
Mm-hmm.
my voiceover work was sustaining me, and vice versa, you know, because it ebbs and flows. And so I do feel blessed and fortunate that I'm able to do so many things in the industry, so that when one thing feels a little bit out of reach, then something else is there to keep me going.
Yes, thank goodness about that because a lot of
Thank
times for actors there might not be enough work,
Exactly.
and unless they have some sort of an alternative, like for example, voiceover, it will be hard for them to have a nice life in general.
Yeah, and I like paying my bills. Some people don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
I like paying my bills. I don't like people calling me and asking me for anything. So I will work and I'll pay my bills.
Well, I suppose that's a nice way of looking at life.
Yeah, I mean, if there were no bills, I would be satisfied with that too. But that is
Yeah,
not the reality of
obviously.
my existence. So,
Yes. Too right, too right. Getting back to voiceover, do you remember any specific roles you've had in all sorts of projects?
I do, so my life in voiceover has been varied. I've done lots of young audiobooks, young adult titles. I've done
Mm-hmm.
some educational titles, and so those were animated. I've done commercials, radio commercials, like McDonald's, and
Yes.
I've done Pantene hair shampoo. And I've done that for television. And I've done, video games. And the first time that I did a Rockstar game, I it was Grand Theft Auto.
I have some information on a cowboy kind of game which was called Red Dead Revolver.
Red
I'm
Dead
not sure.
Revolver.
Yes, I'm not sure.
And wait, was that Bad Betty?
I'm not sure. It could have been. I'm not quite familiar with that game, but I'm pretty sure the Grand Theft Auto games came after that.
Yeah. So I did Red Dead Revolver. Yeah, and and those games it's funny because I'm not a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will give you a picture of, you know, the person that you're portraying, the character that you're portraying, and the lines, and you just kind of go for it,
Mm-hmm.
and there are people who will hit me up on social media. Wait, were you the person who voiced? Yeah, that was me. you know, and I'm thankful for the recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm thankful for the recognition because, clearly, lots of people who are playing these games have heard my voice, and and that's wonderful.
Yes, and a lot of them might not realize who actually behind those voices are. So it's cool that now we're here and we can make that clear to all the fans. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and and it's interesting because the way that they capture our voices, we do
Mm-hmm.
the lines, but then, clearly there's a lot going on. And so they
Mm-hmm.
want us to voice sounds for all of those moments in the game,
Mm-hmm.
if we're you know, if we're caught, if we're dying, if we are overcoming something,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's just catching sound. So just catching a scream, a yell. And honestly, that's some of the harder voiceover work because it's a bit more taxing on your voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, there are now some regulations.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of make sure your voice doesn't get destroyed during
Yeah.
sessions like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because when I started doing them, it was early.
Mm-hmm.
And and I haven't done one lately. I've really been doing a lot more audiobooks, which I love, And I actually did something and my it was for a museum and my
Mm.
cousin said to me, "Oh my gosh, I think I heard your voice." And I could no longer listen to the museum piece because she was like,
Yes.
is that Heather?" And so she called me. She was like, "Did you do a voiceover?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "I'm in Alabama and I'm hearing your voice and I'm going crazy."
Well, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool to know. Yeah. It's interesting where all these voiceovers can go to.
And it's interesting when people really recognize your voice, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think I take that for granted sometimes that, just how distinct my voice is to certain people. Now, some people
Mm-hmm.
will hear my voice and can't pick me up out of a crowd, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who are like, "Oh my, no, I heard your voice and turned around and you were on TV," or "Did you do this commercial?" So, yeah.
Well, I, for example, heard your voice in this game called Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where you had a specific role, Denise Robinson. Not sure if you remember her. She was like a gangster kind of girl, and
Yes, I remember.
she had like a rather higher, annoying voice, if I can say it that way. The way she was speaking, I'm not sure if that was intentional or if But if I'd be talking to you right now and I wouldn't know that it was you who did it, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. So,
Okay.
that's it's pretty distinct. So I guess you did a good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, like I was saying earlier, even with voiceover, they're characters. And so when I'm doing a young adult title for an audiobook, sometimes they're really young. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've got to figure out, where I'm going to pitch my voice
Mm-hmm.
for for the main character if they are a young person, and then all the other people that live in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can be that can be a great challenge, trying
Yeah,
to make
I can
sure, but
imagine.
also in remembering, like, wait, did this man have a lisp, or was he a baritone? What's going on? Yeah, so trying to keep track of those voices in my head
Hmm.
sometimes can be a challenge.
Do you find it hard sometimes to go back and do all sorts of different voices? For example, when you're doing a sequel.
You know what? Yes. But I will say that the producers that I've worked with, especially on audiobooks are so good at taking care of that aspect of it for you. So they will have, because I did do a series, um, I think it was a trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
and they will have snippets of the characters that you did. And
Oh,
sometimes,
yes.
yeah, it'll be, some time in between. It could be a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and your voice changes over time.
Yes,
The
definitely.
quality of my voice isn't the same quality that I had when I did Denise Robinson, you know. So I don't know. Maybe I would be a little less annoying now. I don't know. But I would, if Denise were to come back, I would try to have the same quality,
Of course, yes.
yeah, that I gave her, but I would also go, wait, but Denise is probably a little older as well, you know?
It
So,
could be, yes.
yeah, adding a little backstory for my character.
Yes, you like doing that, like you said earlier. Do you perhaps happen to remember how did it all start with Rockstar?
I think I just gave in an audition. I think I
Mm-hmm.
gave in an audition and they were like, hey, called my agents and said, we're going to put her on hold. And then, oh, you're booked. So go to this studio, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, auditioning is, well, especially, well, it still is. It really is a numbers game. You're doing these auditions after audition, and you never know how much, how many auditions before you get that job.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the thing that's going to like hit for you?
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Well, luckily you've been able to land jobs here and there, a lot of them actually, which is good for you. And it's amazing to hear you in all sorts of positions, such as commercial, in all sorts of these mediums.
Yeah.
It's just really shows how flexible you are.
Thank goodness. And I always say to people, if you want to get into voiceover, like really listen. I think I got better at voiceover when I started really listening to the mediums that I wanted to be in. So if I wanted to do more radio commercials, I would
Mm-hmm.
sit and listen to the radio commercials, and I would sit and listen to them with my eyes closed. I would listen to TV commercials with my eyes closed, you know, and I would listen to people talk about video games and audiobooks. So I would try to really listen to see what people were giving, you know?
Obviously, yes. I mean, you're not gonna act a scene out the same way in like a video game as you would in a film.
Exactly, but a lot of people don't know that,
Yeah,
you know?
that
A
could be a
lot of people,
problem. Yeah.
yeah, and but also, as you talk about voiceover, a lot of people don't realize that people make a living doing voiceover for the background that you hear on film or TV shows, you know?
Oh.
And so people will be involved with loop groups,
Oh, yes.
right? And there I have friends who have bought their homes because that's what they do.
Oh,
They loop.
that's amazing.
And it is a great living. It's a great fee per day, but it also provides you with residual income because
Mm.
anytime those shows run, you still get paid.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah,
amazing. Honestly,
that's amazing,
speaking
right?
of residuals, did you have knowledge of, this Grand Theft Auto game that you've been into? They remastered this game and they put it out again like a year or two ago, I think. It's like a remastered version, and you're in it. I
Oh,
don't I'm not sure if you
I did
received
not
any
know that.
residuals. Well, that was a long time ago, so very likely the regulations were very different back then.
They were different because this is the thing, at the time that I was doing video games, it was a flat fee and we didn't get residuals.
Yes.
If we had residuals, I would be sipping a cocktail on a beach somewhere because so many people play those games.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's
Well,
not what it is.
well, good to know what exactly is behind that. Actually, if I would play you a few clips of Denise, you think you could perhaps say something to the fans and the voice?
Maybe. Let's see.
Well, let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if you'd pass out from laughing, because these lines could potentially cause you know. Okay, there we go. Let's hope you can hear this.
Yourself. Don't push a lady. My boyfriend will kill you for that. You disrespecting a lady, huh? Don't you push me, fool, bitch. Get your bitch ass out of my way. Kind of punk ass bitch is pushing me. Get your filthy hands off of me.
Did you hear any of that?
Yikes! Denise!
I'm,
Denise, what you talking about? You should be talking to people like that.
I'm
You need to
afraid you're
grow
the
up,
one
Denise.
responsible for that.
That was my answer to you. in the
Well,
Denise in the Denise voice of how many
yeah,
years ago was that? You said that was 2004?
it was. Yeah, that's
That was
long ago.
that was 19 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. How does it feel to be back as Denise?
Oh, Denise. I wonder what happened to her and her boyfriend.
Well, they survived, so let's see what's gonna happen. Hopefully, I mean, maybe you will be brought back once. I know that you voiced some pedestrians for like a later game of Rockstar, so
Yeah.
that's also cool that they brought you back.
Yeah. It was great working with them. It was, but it felt like you just came in, you did your job and you left. It wasn't
Obviously, yes.
yeah.
You probably didn't think twice of it. You did it, and then you went home and did something.
And I went home and I did something else. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But you know what? I appreciate the community that,
Hmm.
you know, because and again, like I said, I'm not in the gamer community, but it feels like I, you all are are really invested in
Hmm.
the characters, and that's what any actor wants. Any actor wants you to become invested in the work that they do.
Yeah, obviously, and that's just, for actors, I think it might feel good if they get recognized for certain roles.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not sure. Did you have any knowledge of, some celebrities being in that game, where you voiced Denise Robinson? Do you have any
No,
knowledge
who
of
else was in that game?
that? Samuel L. Jackson
Oh.
and let me see, James Woods, if you happen to know
Oh,
him.
okay, yeah.
Some
Mhm.
rappers, from around that era. And so a lot of people or actors who were in the game might not actually know of that. So it's interesting.
You know what? I think I did know that Samuel L. Jackson was in that. I mean, he does everything. He is such a brilliant actor,
He
you know,
is, really.
and I love hearing his voice always.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah. Actually, I saw on Instagram that you happen to follow Chad L. Coleman. Do you happen to know him?
I do, and I actually called him last night.
Really?
Yes, because I saw that you all did an interview together,
We
right?
did. We did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So you made sure you were coming to a nice place.
Yes.
I
And he
hope he
was
was
like,
only
he's
saying.
good people. He said he's good people.
Well, a good thing he remembered. I mean, all of you amazing actors, you get interviewed so many times. So It's just nice that he happened to remember who you was talking about.
Yes, he did. He did.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, Heather, thank you so much, honestly, for hopping on and chatting with me. It was really nice talking to you. I think we talked about stuff that is really relevant these days and that people care about it. You know, your role as Denise. I'm pretty sure you haven't discussed that before, so I was really happy to talk to you about that.
You know what? I have not. This is a first, so thank you. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you.
I guess I'm supposed to say you're welcome, and I hope to see you again in the future. And once this is up, I will send it to you.
Okay, absolutely.
Thanks a bunch. Wishing you the best in your future endeavors, and have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.